Hey, okay, we are back. We're doing a tier list today. The plan here is we're going to do three tier list videos, each MLB rotations, MLB lineups, and then the MLB bullpens. And we're kind of going to go into what each team off-season needs and what they could look for and where they stand before all the moves are made. And then we'll do a re-rank right before the end of the season or not the end of the season, end of the off-season, start of the season, and see what each team did and kind of how they moved up or down and got more competitive, less competitive. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at all 30 teams and how they fit into a overall um, rotation specific. Bullpen and other stuff will be later on. This is purely rotation, starting pitching, which can also include depth, obviously, but starting pitching is going to be the focal point here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's what they're gonna do in 2025 going forward, right? So it's like, yeah, I like you said, depth is focused in. Like, it's nice if you have a sixth or seventh guy, or maybe some minor league depth that can fill in the back half of the year to really bolster it. I mean, that's what good rotations do. But we're really looking at that starting five that most teams don't have better than the team you're repping right there, the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, we'll get to them eventually, but I think we're going to do this alphabetically
Okay.
to start.
Okay, Arizona Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks.
This is
I
a
mean,
this is an interesting situation just because you don't know. I mean, Jordan Montgomery, where do you put them? You've got a lot of veterans. Thought was maybe not as his numbers just didn't look as good as you were expecting at the end of the year, coming in with what I think he ended with almost a five ERA. It was pretty rough down the stretch for him. I think I'm going probably C with the Diamondbacks to start, and maybe we move them up because they do have that depth that I like. But I don't know. What are you thinking?
I think the Montgomery signing was a disaster, obviously. I'd love to see him bounce back, but we can't count on that. And I mean, going into next year, I think it kind of hinges on Zach Gallen and whether he returns to form because he really had a down year this year. And
Yeah, I mean the benefit of the Diamondbacks is really right. They're not losing anybody. I mean, who Erod's still there, Jamont's still there, Fott's still there. It's still Kelly, still Gallen,
yeah,
like you said. Like it's pretty much everyone who's there, and I don't believe. I mean, there's Yilbert Diaz who could kind of fill in. Christian Mena. They're not top tier prospects, but can kind of eat some innings. So I think you've got a solid rotation there. It just scares me with no kind of high end ace, and you're playing in a division with I mean, the Dodgers and the Giants are probably going to make some big additions. It's like
definitely.
you kind of got to keep pace. And I could see them maybe if they make a big move for some sort of guy in the offseason moving up into that BRA. But as it stands, I think C is probably where they're at.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think with them, they've got a lot of good starting pitching, but they don't really have that like primo stuff outside of Gallen and
And he
even
can be that guy. It's just like you said. It's you can't count on.
there's some
Let's let me
question
let
marks.
me look at what were his final numbers. I mean, it's tough because we talk about Fott and Gallen having disappointing seasons, and the seasons looked very different. In the end, obviously, Gallen had a 3.65 to 148 innings, striking out 9.5 per nine, which for most pitchers very good, but the Cy Young level that we know we can get of mid twos ERA from Gallen is not what we saw this year.
Definitely.
Atlanta Braves.
Any
You're
questions?
going S.
I'm
I,
going
I think
S.
it all hinges on Strider's return for me.
I get your point
But
there.
any team that can say Schwellenbach's a four is
I think the Braves black magic with starting pitching, where they just get these guys you've never heard of, and suddenly they're the best pitcher in baseball. There's something there. Yeah, and you mentioned it, Schwellenbach. I mean, they just had Sale win a Cy Young. They had
Reynaldo Lopez. I mean,
Raylo came out of
it's
practically
really
nowhere.
But when you're looking at the starting rotation opening day 2025, obviously Chris Sale remains one of the premier pitchers in baseball. And then you've got, yeah, Raylo and Schwellenbach. And then probably you're rounding out your rotation at the moment with Smith Shaver or Elder, maybe
Yeah,
Waldrip.
they
I,
do
I just
lose.
right now it's a lot of young guys. You're probably gonna lose Morton. Um, and if Strider's not back until more than halfway through the season, the depth is kind of thin there. So I agree with S for now. Let's see how the other teams shake out and if there's just definitively better rotations because I think there are teams like the Mariners that are just so solid 1 through 5 that kind of put them in this other echelon above the Braves.
Yeah, and I definitely think that there are some. I mean, Sale his dominance this year is definitely not sustainable at his age, really going forward. But I think he's still going to be a really really good one option until Strider gets back. I
Yeah, and I mean we're talking shorter term here. Like we're looking at just this season going forward. And I mean, there's nothing that's saying that Sale's going to fall off a cliff all of a sudden after winning a Cy Young. And I mean his first Cy Young. Like,
yeah
come on. It's
yeah
not it's not like we're talking about Randy Johnson winning his sixth at 40 and it's like, okay, like we're just waiting for it to fall off. Like Sale looked like a different pitcher than he has in the last few years. Like he put something together.
All right,
Okay.
Baltimore
Baltimore.
Orioles. I mean, I
I'm gonna
love
go
Grayson Rodriguez, but
I think I'm gonna go D. I mean, if the Diamondbacks are C, I don't see how you put them. I mean,
well,
you basically right now you've got Eflin, Kremer, Grayrod, and then it's just kind of like Albert Suarez and Trevor Rogers, and it's like, do you really feel comfortable with those guys? And I think the answer is no, definitively. And they're gonna go out and get some guys, and I could see them doing another trade just because of how many prospects and
yeah,
what they were able to do with the Corbin Burns deal last year and not pay him and still get ace caliber stuff. I mean that just seems like a no brainer for a team that's a little more cash strapped than some of the big budgets they're competing with. So I like them at a D now, but I would not be surprised to see them even leap the Diamondbacks, who I think are less likely to make a big move.
yeah. I think to your point, I think everything hinges off of how they approach the offseason. I think if Burns is coming back, they're immediately bumped up at least one tier. And if they can get somebody like
I
to your
mean,
point,
if Burns is back, it would shock me less and less that I think about it just because if the Orioles are going to put their money somewhere, you might as well give it to the guy that you already traded all your assets for and know works in your rotation in your ballpark and is a good fit for your team. So I could definitely see that.
hmm hmm all right, Boston.
The Red Sox.
I mean, I think when I think of the Red Sox rotation, I think of a lot of decent pitchers. You know,
A lot of threes, a lot of
a
three, a
lot of
lot of
threes.
fours. I agree.
I mean, Pavetta is all right. Hauk, he looked.
He's Pavetta's a free agent now,
Oh, that's
so
right.
but it's Hauk, it's Bayo, it's Chriswell, Cutter Crawford, Winchowski. It's kind of just like a lot. I mean, I don't know. Giolito will be back eventually. It's
Yeah,
it's kind of a lot of guys that I feel, yeah, okay, like they can get you there, but you need that umph. And I think you see Craig Breslow come out and at the GM meeting say we're looking for that. That's what we're going after the big ticket free agents. I predicted them to sign Max Fried in our offseason. I think the Red Sox are looking for an ace. Like John Henry, the owner, obviously, of the Red Sox, is not gonna. He's in the business of Boston sports. He understands you need a centerpiece, you need a face, and they don't have that right now. Like how he looked so good at the start of the year, and I think he's going to be a solid 2-3, but he's not an ace.
yeah. I mean,
But
I think I'm
for
gonna go.
tears,
I mean,
yeah, I
I feel
like
like
that.
there is a world where we just move these all three of these up one tier each, just because it's like I feel like I don't think of the Orioles as a particularly terrible rotation.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the depth that kind of falls off
Mhm.
with the Orioles. But yeah, let's see how they shake out in comparison to some of these other teams that might be.
Yeah.
I mean, we're about to get up onto the White Sox, and they might be in a whole nother tier of different. But let's start with the Cubs.
I
I
mean,
I like the Cubs
Shota
rotation,
and
and they
Steele.
could still add to it. Yeah,
I
like
mean, I think that's you've got your clear 1-2 there, and that's really what you want out of a rotation. Um,
is Tyone's still back, right?
I think so because I feel like he would be a bigger
Let
because
let me look at his contract.
he had a really
He
good
had
year.
he signed a big deal, right? Like he just signed one. Okay, yeah, he's in no, he didn't just sign one, but he's in his third year of a 4-year, $68 million deal. So he's got this year and next year at 18. Okay, but they've still got yeah, they've got Imanaga, they've got Steele, they've got Tyone.
They've
I
got
like Ben
Assad.
Brown. I know he was in Assad. I like Jordan Wicks. I think there's some guys that younger guys that can fill out the back of that rotation. But I do think, like we've said for all these teams, I expect them to sign someone. But I like him having all those good lefties in that in Wrigley and kind of playing to the ballpark a little bit. I think I like them. I don't know. Them and the Diamondbacks are probably on a similar level, but I might put the Cubs in
I
B.
yeah, I disagree a little bit there. I feel like when I think about the Cubs rotation versus the Diamondbacks, I mean, I feel like the Cubs, you've got your 1-2 just super solid guys, and then you've got some
Okay,
young
but
guys, and then the
can you not
Diamondbacks.
can you not compare them to Kelly and Gallon?
I don't think so. I think
Okay, I think that's fair.
yeah,
I think if you want to put those guys a tier ahead, I have no arguments with that. But in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you've got Gallon and Kelly right there. Then you've got Imanaga and you've got Steele. So it's like you've kind of got your, like you said, those 1, 2, and then you kind of got those back end pieces. And maybe the Cubs guys are a little younger with some higher ceilings, but the Diamondbacks guys are a little more proven and they could bounce back. But with how the Diamondbacks guys looked last year, like Erod and Jamont, like we talk about, it's hard to have faith.
yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, they lose Flexen, who I believe led the league in losses. Big, big
yeah, big loss,
surprise there.
big loss.
I mean, they've got obviously they have Crochet, who's really the only guy in there that you like.
If he sticks around.
But
Okay, so let's think about this. If they open the season though with Crochet, Drew Thorpe, Kai Bush probably,
Davis
and then
Daniels.
throw in like a Jonathan Cannon and Nick Nastrini. I don't know, some other prospect.
I mean, I
I still don't think they're D even.
yeah. I mean, I think that there's definitely you've got Crochet who I mean I feel like they're gonna have to trade him, but Thorpe Thorpe is a guy. Um, and I
And
don't
like I like Thorpe as a guy, but I just and like you said, like he's good, but is he number 2 starter 2025 as a rookie, like solid? And it's just like probably not. I think you're looking at this team a little more long term, and once you get guys like Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz, and probably back end of the 2025 season, maybe more realistically 2026 impact guys. Jairo Iriarte is another one.
mhm.
There's a lot of guys who can make an impact. I just think this team is far from competing, so it's unfair to expect them to come out and have anyone but Kai Bush as the number 3 starter for opening day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Um the Cincinnati Reds, your Cincinnati Reds. I mean Hunter Green, Rhett Lauder,
Nick
Chase Burns
Lodolo.
probably not next year, but in the future, yeah,
Yeah, I
Lodolo,
mean maybe at the back end of the year.
Ashcraft. I mean, they've got
I
a
mean,
ton.
there's Williamson. There's some depth there. I think you're losing that. What you're losing Swingman, Nick Martinez, and that's pretty much it. You've got Carson Spires who looked all right. I mean, nothing in the future really. But I think there's some pieces there to build on, and I do like the high end talent of Lodolo. Can be a monster out there when he stays
Mhm.
healthy, when he's looked on his game. Green, same thing. It's like I did not expect him to pitch 150 healthy innings this year, and what did he get to? Did he get to 180? He got a lot farther into this
No, he
season
got
than
a
I
lot.
thought. He did end up getting hurt at the end, but the Reds were not
And
in
then
the playoff race. It might have got he got 150.1, so he beat out my 150 by .1
yeah,
innings.
and then
But
Abbott's like I feel like Abbott's a really good like 5'4" guy, you know? I really like him
absolutely.
there. And
And I mean, it fits. I think it fits what you're looking for if you're the Reds in a back end starter where you're playing in, yeah, like I always say, Great American Small Park, and you want a lefty kind of sidewinder, funky guy, get some ground balls, and kind of work around what can be a tough situation.
hmm definitely.
Okay,
Guardians.
Cleveland Guardians.
I mean, there's a lot of question marks around Bieber. Um,
It's Bieber. There's a lot of question marks. A lot of question marks around Gavin Williams. A lot of question marks around Tristan McKenzie. This whole rotation, I think the upside is like a Reds. Like
yeah.
you've got these guys that are just
I
pretty
mean, Bybee
tantalizing
is
talent wise. I mean, we've seen all these guys. We've seen Gavin Williams look like a stud and look like a two at the big league level. Tristan McKenzie, I think we've seen him look like a three and all year long look athletic. Like Bieber, we've seen him win a Cy Young. He can be an ace. But I mean, there's guys, and it's we haven't seen it in the last year, and so I think it's tough to put them above even the Cubs for me.
And I mean, I think that there is something to be said for the Guardians pitching like facilities
Development, yeah.
development. Yeah, I mean, you see Matthew Boyd come out there and start game two of a playoff series, and he looked up to it too. I
Oh,
mean,
I mean, Boyd, and you're talking about Boyd and
Cobb,
Cobb being acquisitions at the deadline, and then we're both hurt and just came back and were studly down the stretch for the last week or so in the season and pitching into the playoffs. That's pretty unheard of. I think I'd put them. I'm putting them C with the Diamondbacks. I just think they don't have that.
I mean, I think that
It's
yeah,
tough because I think Bybee and I think Bieber can be those guys. I just last year was not their season.
yeah. I mean, you said it very well. There's just a lot of question marks on their pitching staff, and if they come through, then they're up here. But and I think if they don't come through, they're down here. I think C is just a perfect spot for them to sit with all the uncertainty around their rotation.
Well, and like I think we laid it down well. I think Bybee is probably the consistent guy you can rely on. I think he's a solid two right now. But if Gavin Williams can't be a three, and if Bieber can't be a one, then you're talking about a two leading a rotation with a bunch of fours and fives, and you want to compete, right? That's
Mhm.
not exactly what you want. So that's kind of the downside we're looking at.
Definitely. I mean, the Colorado Rockies at any given moment have the worst
It's just
pitching in
it's
baseball.
it's so
Just
tough.
disappears.
They can't get anybody to sign there. It's not their. I mean, I say it's not their fault. Like I don't know what they're supposed to like. No pitcher is gonna want to go spend their career in a place where their ERA is gonna have an asterisk next to it and be like, but he was in course.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I love DeLaunder. I don't think he's going to be up next year, but I mean,
you
it's
love who? So oh
DeLaunder.
yeah,
Yeah,
Chase Dollander.
Dollander.
I don't know. Is it Doll? Is it it's Dollander, Dolander? The
I
Tennessee pitcher. Yes, he's one of the. I
I
mean,
mean,
what Baseball America just ranked him number 5.
yeah, really
I
high.
have him. Let's see, where is he in my prospect rankings?
But I mean, they've got
He's number 21.
the Rockies. It's so hard to talk about their pitching because you look at the numbers and they all just look terrible. But it's like, is Cal Quantrill, Kyle Freeland, are they that bad at pitchers, or is that just the
Yeah,
pitching?
and yeah, you've got Marquez coming back. I think
hmm
Senzatella, but it's just all these guys are just they're not exciting. I think you're waiting on them to hopefully get Dollander and hopefully get maybe a Sean Sullivan or some of these funky guys to kind of figure their way around Colorado. But it's figuring out how to be all right at Coors, not being an ace and being an elite staff in baseball. So it's a different bar in Colorado, and it's tough to rank them anywhere else but F.
Yeah. All right. I mean, the Tigers is so difficult because you've got the best pitcher in baseball in Tarek Skubal. You've got a really like decent up and coming young guy in Reese Olson, and then no one.
I I I think it's tough because you say no one, but Jackson Jobe, I think, is going to
Oh
come
yeah.
next year and establish himself as a starter, a guy like maybe he's not what he's going to be, obviously, in future years of his career, but I think you're going to see mid threes ERA, and he's going to show you that he has that elite strikeout stuff and he can compete with anybody. So you put him in there as a two, and you've got maybe Mize, he might get traded, but Olson, Mize, maybe you move like what you said. You liked Holton being moved full time to a starter, right?
No, it was
Or
Herder,
that
Brant Herder.
Herder.
Yes.
I get all those guys. Vest, Brisky, Herder, Holton, there's so many guys
Chaos.
that are kind of
Yeah.
came out of nowhere this season and were so good in Detroit. And that again gives me faith that this bullpen can kind of, I don't know. There's going to be guys that move to. They had so many swingmen kind of types. I think there's going to be someone who steps up. But yeah, like you're looking at Kiter Montero, who they have belief in too, being a back end guy. And once you have Tarek Skubal, you don't have to be that much better. Like Tarek Skubal is so much better, in my opinion, than like even a Hunter Green right now that the Reds have in an A territory. That it's like that they're right there.
Yeah. You're putting them in A.
I would put them in A, but I'm comfortable if you want to put them in B.
I think I'm not ready to put them in A just with.
Okay.
I mean, I love Job. I love Scooble.
I'm too big a Job guy. I have Job as my second highest prospect. I think he's such a surefire. Like you're looking at the next ace. Like you're looking at another Tarek Skubal level like starter in the in I almost said NFL, MLB. That time of year.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I just think the only reason that they're not in A is because I haven't seen them yet. It might be a 2 weeks into the season they're up in S. And that's
Yeah.
a huge possibility.
Oh, and also like you said, I mean, in the mock predictions video, I think Verlander or Scherzer is, I mean, pretty good prediction to go to the Tigers and just finish off their careers. Like you could see them shooting up with just kind of balancing those young guys who, if they are really good, you could see them be a two or three in this rotation in 2025. And if they aren't, maybe these veterans take a little more of a 150, 160 inning role rather than maybe 100 innings and save them for the playoffs type of thing.
Hmm. All right.
Houston.
I mean, I think it's hard to put them anywhere below A, just with. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
Framber has year after year of just really great pitching, and they've got Hunter Brown and they've got Christian Javier coming back, and they
Blanco and Arrighetti, and you're talking about Luis Garcia's coming back.
yeah.
And I haven't seen Lance McCullers pitch in what, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years? When's the last time we saw him on the mound? I mean, I feel like I remember watching Lance McCullers be a starter when I was like in middle school, and now he still hasn't come back. Like he's still on his way back. Um, but yeah, he hasn't pitched since 2022. So, and even that season, he only pitched 47 innings. So
Hmm.
I don't know. You're talking about a guy who finished top 10 in Cy Young the year before that, but how are we supposed to know what to do? It's like it's the same question I had. We're starting a series where we're going over each team individually, and I was just looking at the Nationals. It's like Cade Cavalli. He hasn't pitched in 2.5 years. I don't know what he looks like. I know what he did look like. It's the same thing with Lance McCullers. But even having a guy that's like that kind of tantalizingly talented as the 7 or 8 is so exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I think just with the depth of great pitching that the Astros have, it's I'm really on the fence between A and S right now.
I think I'm gonna go A. I just think there's not you don't have five guys who performed in 2024 going into 2025. And that I feel like that's my criteria for what S is gonna be. And I don't even know if the Braves fit that criteria
I mean, I
necessarily.
think once we get to some of these
I think you're
teams
talking, yeah, you're
over
looking at
here,
the
the
yeah,
Braves
you're
might
looking at the
make their way
the
down.
Dodgers and the Braves and like these teams or not Dodgers Braves, Mariners and Dodgers that might be in this upper echelon. Royals, speaking of upper echelon,
I
we were just
mean,
talking Seth Lugo just got finalist for the Cy Young.
and he's their
So
number two.
yeah. So I mean you're talking Reagan's, Lugo, you
Waka.
just re-signed Waka, right? You're hoping that Brady Singer can look good and maybe Alec Marsh can keep up what he did this season. I mean, that it's another team. You saw five guys be pretty good this season, so it's exciting going forward when you can have all of them coming back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got Reagans and Lugo, who are two of the best pitchers in MLB, and then you've
Mhm.
got some decent guys behind them. So I don't think it's
I think I'd probably go B. I like Reagan's and Lugo kind of as a Cubs top two Imanaga Steel comp, and then you've got guys you can believe in the back end. So it's kind of similar, but maybe you don't have that high end upside like a Tarek Skubal. I do think Reagan's is really good, and he's going to be one of my Cy Young predictions until he does eventually win it. But until he does, you can't really rank him up there with a Skubal.
yeah, for sure.
Oh, yay. We get to rank the Angels. Oh, so
Yay, we get
fun.
to rank the Dodgers.
Well, if you guys saw the little short that I put out on the Angels signing Tyler Anderson, you'll know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Why?
You mean
It's $2.5 million. Like,
Hendricks?
what did I say? Oh, did I say Tyler Anderson?
You
Kyle
said
Hendricks. Um, They have Tyler Anderson already. Again, a guy I'm not excited about and think he's going to regress back to the mean a little bit this season. I think the Angels they're always chasing something in pitching, which it just, and it feels like as soon as they sign with the Angels, you're like, yep, okay, well, bye Dylan Bundy, bye Trevor Cahill, bye. Like all these guys, it's just like, you're going to sign these like 1 year, $15 million deals and just disappear with the Angels for a year. Go re-sign with the team that made you famous and go make some more money. But I just the Angels pitching development and development in general, I can't.
The
I just can't
Angels, yeah,
talk about it.
the Angels front office right now is just a dumpster fire.
Well, and Artie Moreno is just. I don't think he's a good owner. I think the Angels have a lot of things wrong, and I don't really know what to do other than fire everyone to fix it. So, oh,
Yeah,
sorry. Can
it's
you hear that? My window's open.
it's not noticeable too bad. But I mean, I love Reed Detmers, and when I say that, I mean I'd love for him to go to another team so we can see what he actually looks like. He
Uh,
should properly
oh,
get
do you have any incentives for why you would want Reed Detmers to go to another team, Nate?
I'm just a
You
really
just
nice guy.
can't. Yeah, you definitely don't have him on your fantasy team or anything.
Nothing to worry about there. But
Oh,
I mean, I think yeah, it's just
as of 5 minutes ago, Paul Skeens is your NL Rookie of the Year.
well, we'll be talking about him in just a minute, but very deserved for him.
Very
You know what?
exciting.
What 197 over 133 innings with
I mean it's pretty incredible. We haven't seen a lot like it. A lot of guys we haven't seen a lot like in on the Dodgers rotation, and if they have Otani coming back, SSSSS. I mean, you are talking about even without Flaherty or Bueller or the Roki Sasagi or the millions of guys that are all ace caliber that they're going to sign this offseason. They are still S because they have Yamamoto and they have Otani and they have Glasnow and they have Dustin May and they have the guy I always forget, Gavin Stone, and they have River Ryan coming back after this year, and they have. I mean, it's like I could go on
and
forever and ever and
Bobby
ever.
Miller.
Landon Knack and
They have bounced back.
Robleski and I mean Emmett Sheehan and Nick Frasso and I mean, like I can't keep going. I'm gonna lose my breath. Dodgers are S, and I'm gonna make a video when they sign Roki Sasaki or whoever they sign this offseason. It's like trying to fit 5 guys in this rotation, and it's impossible. It's like trying to put your whole wardrobe in like a little cinch sack and go on the run. I don't. They've got an abundance of riches. I can't believe it.
Yeah, undeniable. I'm okay. Here is an interesting one because
Sneaky abundance of riches as well. Like
numbers wise, this year the Mariners had like the second worst rotation in baseball. But then you look at next year and it's like, oh, they've got Sandy
Marlins,
Alcantara.
not Mariners.
Huh? Oh, did I say Mariners?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the Marlins had like a bottom two ERA for starters, and you look at who's coming back, and it's Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez. Um, I mean, who else do they got? I know I like Ryan Weathers. He showed flashes this year.
Yeah, I mean you've got Braxton Garrett, Edward
Braxton Garrett.
Cabrera, Luzardo, Weathers, Alcantara, Perez, Max Meyer, Adam Major. Like there are more guys coming in the pipeline too. Like they just traded for what they get Lesko or did they get Snelling?
They got Snelling.
Uh they got Snelling.
Yeah,
I mean, there and then you've got Thomas White and you've got Noble Meyer, you've got the other Meyer. Like there's just so many guys to be excited about in this development that I do think they're even a team to trade out because they have so much talent there. Like Lazaro, you'd probably be getting low on him, and I know guys like Cabrera and Weathers have years left on their deals, and they've already announced Alcantara's not going anywhere, but. I don't know. It seems like they've got too much there and not enough anywhere else. So
yeah.
it could be interesting to see them make a move.
I mean, obviously, your definition of S is that they had really good this year, so I don't think I can put them in S.
I think I'm putting them in A. I think you
I just
can't
think the
put
depth
them.
there is so like.
I
I
just
mean,
think you can't put them any different than the Astros, right? Like you've got Sandy is a Fromber level ace, and then you've got such depth there on a different level than like I feel like it's a similar situation to the Astros too, where a lot of those guys are coming back from injury too, and you're kind of having faith they are going to bounce back
and
and look like the
but
guys
then
they
like
were.
what the Astros don't have is all these prospect pitchers who are coming up, and that's what the
Exactly. I
Marlins
mean,
do.
Yori Perez is another Cy Young caliber guy with Alcantara, and that's definitely the Astros. Eric Getty is not a Cy Young caliber guy. He's probably a guy who has a upside of a 3, and because he has that strikeout stuff, he's gonna make the pitching ninja videos, and his 12 strikeouts per 9 is gonna be real exciting. But I mean, it's kind of a Nick Pavetta thing where it's like, yeah, he's gonna bounce around and he's gonna have exciting stuff, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, if he goes to this specific team, maybe he'll break out. But we'll see if he can put it all together. I got faith because he's on my fantasy team, but realistically, he's not as good as some of these Marlins guys. Okie
Why was outside my
dokie. Yeah, I
window?
don't know.
Sounds like a
Uh,
church. Okay,
Brewers.
I mean, Freddie Peralta, Woodruff's coming back. Um,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they've got. I mean, Peralta. I would be interested to see if they move him because he's got a big contract. Sorry, laughing at the audio. He's got a big contract, and with what they did with Burns last year, it kind of makes sense. The Brewers don't seem like they really want to pay these guys, and they can kind of patch together a Woodruff and Ashby, Tobias Myers, what they had. Colin Reyes. I'm like, their guys are so random this year. Who else? Okay, it was Myers, Rea, and who was the third? They had a third kind of random guy this year.
yeah,
Um,
I know who you're talking about, yet I just cannot remember their name for the life of me.
let me look up the Brewers stats.
Yeah, have a look. But I mean, I think the point here is that they're not. Like, I
No,
love Tobias Myers, and I think Colin Ray has a lot of good stuff left. But Freddie Peralta is probably on his way out, and Woodruff's coming back from injury. So I can't really put them in the same category as any of these teams.
I just don't even think. I mean, I don't love Tobias Myers. I don't love Colin Ray. I think they had like kind of these seasons out of their shoes, and it's a little like I even like DL Hall more than that, and that's who I was thinking of as DL Hall. But yeah, I think yeah, they're probably C tier, and if Freddie goes somewhere, they're
Yeah,
dropping fast.
definitely. All right.
Minnesota
I mean,
Twins.
Bailey Ober had a
I mean Bailey over,
what
but
was
it's
that?
like if Pablo Lopez can be who Pablo Lopez can be, then they're good. And they have depth too. I mean,
And
we're
Joe
talking about
Ryan,
Joe Ryan, Zebby Matthews, the other rookie
Simeon
David
Woods Richardson.
Festa, Simeon Woods Richardson, like that they could potentially be a team to trade somebody. Chris Paddock, what was his injury? Was he TJ
I think so.
or was he shoulder? Let's see.
I feel like when I read shoulder surgery, I usually think TJ. So in my mind,
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paddy's so injury prone that I'm like scared to have him coming back. But if there's some trade interest in him right now, so I think you can expect him
yeah.
to be
But
back in 5 months, not
point
done.
is with the Twins rotation, yeah, they've got Pablo Lopez, who's proven himself that he can be an ace, and they've got Joe Ryan, who's been, I mean, he was really good this year until he got injured, and then Bailey
And I mean,
Ober.
you saw as soon as it felt like as soon as Ryan went out, their rotate not just their rotation, their
Their
whole team
team,
kind of fell apart.
yeah,
Like they missed the playoffs, and it was like that was not something I would have seen going into this season. And obviously, there were big surprises in the Central with the Royals and the Tigers, but Joe Ryan going down was a big thing, and some of these other rotation pieces not being as good as we had thought in the past. I probably can't go higher than C.
yeah. But I agree. But I mean, I would love to look at the splits of that stretch that Ober had from like, I
Oh
think it
my
was like
God.
June 10th to October, or not even like I think till the end of the year, pretty much is
I
when.
mean, I think it was Ober and Bowden Francis that had the most ridiculous, like 2 months of like 0.91 ERA and like just unreal stuff. And it was a bit of batted ball luck, but you also saw them kind of pick up that confidence as they went.
Yeah. The Mets,
Okay.
I find the Mets so interesting because you think of their rotation last year and you're like, oh, they've got a good rotation, but all of those guys are in free
No,
agency.
it's pretty much like Kodai Senga and then David Peterson. Like it's all the guys that were like kind of the like, oh, are they gonna start in the playoffs or are they not? Are they gonna come out of the pen? And that just is that's scary. Like I like Christian Scott, but I don't know when he's gonna be back, if
Yeah,
at all this year.
I
Probably
don't think he's
not.
going to be back next year.
Brandon Sproat, I do think if he doesn't break camp with the team, you're probably thinking April or May. His stuff is too good to deny, and he could have been up at the end of this year if he had had a better stint with the Rumble Ponies in AAA. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
um,
and I just think the question is they're going to sign someone big in free agency, whether that's Mania Sevi. Is Keaton is also
or is it a Corbin Burns or a like Max? Like what level of ace are we talking here? I think I agree with what you're saying.
yeah. So I don't
I'm
really know
between
where to
D and
land.
F though.
I
In
think I'm
terms
going to
of
be nice because I mean I think we can,
Kodai is better than anyone pitching.
yeah,
Well, maybe not Crochet, but
but
the
but
White
then
Sox are
after Kodai they still have some guys where after Crochet they've got.
pretty much nobody. It's Thorpe coming off an injury and some minor leaguers.
All right, the Yankees.
Yankees getting Cole back, very key, very
Yeah,
key.
I mean Cole, Rodon, Schmidt, loved Schmidt this year.
Eel, Cortez, Stroman. I think you're still talking about an A tier rotation here.
Yeah,
I think it's tough, especially when you're as recently as the World Series looking at a team that I would have thought maybe the Yankees have the edge in this World Series in starting pitching over the Dodgers. Obviously, the Dodgers, no Otani, no Glass. Now Yamamoto's coming up. I mean, there's so many extenuating circumstances, but I just think with Garrett Cole looking how he did down the stretch, it's hard to deny that he's not that guy. I mean, he won the
yeah.
Cy Young last year in dominant fashion.
Definitely. I mean, Garrett Cole is there. Rodon, it was so funny because he was having like one of the best seasons of his career, and then he has like this stretch of 4 starts or so where he's just terrible,
Well, I mean, it felt
and then he
like
goes
you
back to the
saw you
MVP.
saw the video of him crying in the dugout, and it was like, wait, he had this like weird stretch, and then yeah, you're right, he was just like totally great in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean it is a bit odd there, but he's shown that he can have prolonged success, and I think that that's something we can look to
Yeah,
expect
and
from
the
Rodon.
Yankees rotation comes with Cortez, who I mean, we are A's fans, and we're about to talk about the A's and place them in F very swiftly. But he would be the A's ace,
Oh,
and he's a guy who's the sixth, seventh guy in the Yankees rotation who's like, oh, we got to get somebody better. Like these Yankees fans, like, so I think the Yankees are always going to put in that upper echelon of needing to have five solid guys, and that's kind of where I'm at with that A tier.
yeah. Well, you gave a little spoiler there. I
Yeah,
mean, what's there to say about it?
they
There's
they
just
had.
nobody.
I mean, Osvaldo Bido looked good down the stretch. Estes, I get. It's just, I mean, these guys, like, even if they looked good for a little bit, you're not talking about elite stuff. You're not talking about guys that are going to pitch 200 innings and look really studly or are even probably in the A's future contending plans. So it's tough for me to give too many compliments.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot to talk about with the A's rotation. I mean,
And I wish there was more to talk about with their minor league pitching. I mean, Luis
Luis
Morales is
Morales.
probably a few years away. Mason Barnett, I like, who we got for Lucas Urseg at the deadline. He ended up pitching actually really well once he came into the A's organization. Let me look up his numbers, but he was on Baseball America's like hot sheet several weeks after that. But again, it's a 24-year-old who hasn't pitched above double A. So what can we expect? Yeah. 2.61 ERA over 44 innings though with 52 strikeouts, 2.12 opponent batting average. So I mean he could be a guy who's up next year.
Yeah, the Phillies. I don't think it's crazy to put them in S, but I'm not going to.
I don't think that's crazy at all.
You know,
I just
yeah.
I don't
I
think
mean,
you
I
have.
think that Christopher Sanchez is the most underrated pitcher in Major League Baseball because he's
Okay.
because he's sitting behind Wheeler Nola, and I mean, well, look at his numbers this year, and
I mean
tell
he was
me.
great. And Ranger Suarez probably has 80 grade command
And then
and
they've got
like
Painter.
can and yes, that's where we were getting like Mr. Andrew Painter, who I absolutely love and think he is probably immediately the second most talented pitcher in this road. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's gonna slot up there with a Nola and a Wheeler immediately, and that's so crazy for a team that was already competing for a playoff spot. Uh, I think I go S
I'm yeah.
honestly.
I mean, I was thinking
If you're
about it.
talking about a playoff rotation that's already kicking, like talking about kicking guys to the bullpen that are this good, like I mean, what? Look at Spencer Turnbull's numbers last year. Like I know this is kind of a random call, but he made a couple good, like really good starts for the Phillies, and just he gets relegated to the bullpen because they have so many guys. I mean, he had a 2.65 this year, and he's pitching out of the pen, and you've known that he can be a starter in the past.
Yeah,
So it's like I don't know. They've got an abundance of riches. It's another one of those big market teams that gets to pick out a free agency and also get their prospects too.
definitely.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
I I mean,
I
I Paul
think
Skeens is 23 years old going into next year, and he's probably a top five pitcher in it.
I think they're really similar to the Tigers for me. I think you put Skeens in that kind of Scooble conversation about
You don't think?
aces that we're gonna put in the next 5 years. But then you've got okay, like maybe you've got. I agree. The Tigers don't really have someone like a Keller, but I think Job is pretty good, and you've got Olson and you've got Mize. Like you have to remember with a lot of these Pirate starters, like we're counting Jared Jones as that ace that we saw at the start of the season, but he came back and his stuff looked a little diminished at the end of the year. And it's like, okay, we haven't seen Ashcraft, we haven't seen Harrington, we haven't seen Chandler, and as much as I love these guys on paper, we're still waiting for them to get to the bigs. So I'm hesitant to put them into that A echelon where it's like five guys who've shown at the major league level they can pitch.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Um, I mean, I think their pitching development is like,
Oh,
I think in 2 years
yeah.
they're gonna be what the 2024 Mariners rotation was.
Oh, I absolutely, and I think the Tigers, the same thing could be said. Like you're talking about teams that are up and coming rather than these kind of big market Yankees and Dodgers who are always going to be good because they have these veteran starters and they have the ability to keep re-signing guys. But the Pirates that have this new development, I mean, you're going to see 4 or 5 guys that are all, I mean, like the Mariners had 20 to 26, like coming through their prime all at the same time and pitching really great.
Hmm. Definitely. I mean, the
Padres.
Michael King breakout this year really is like Dylan Cease. What he had a 3.4 something with 230
Yep.
strikeouts.
And
Um,
then Darvish, you're talking about a guy who he missed a lot of the season, but it was for like there was some injury stuff, but it was mostly a personal family issue. So he's not worn down. You're talking about a guy who's 38, but he only pitched like 100 innings this year, so he's coming in pretty fresh. Matt Waldron, the sometimes knuckleballer, looks pretty good. I know Musgrove's out for the year, right? For
yeah,
sure.
he
I
he
mean,
got.
his
I
TJ
mean, he
was
got
so
TJ
late.
right at the end of the
He got cut right at the end of the year. I can see them adding someone else into this rotation, but just with the Cease and King like horses at the top, I'm putting them at least C, if not B. Yeah,
I'm gonna say B here, and it might be a bit hasty. We'll see what the offseason looks like, but we know that they're probably gonna go out and get somebody to fill that Musgrove void.
I would imagine with how Preller is and how dry their minor league system. I mean, the only guy they really had that was coming up was Major and Snelling and Lesko, and they went at the deadline and went, bye. Okay, they're all gone. Like
Yeah,
these guys better perform. I mean, you've got what they had Vasquez that they got in that Soto trade too. That was kind of bouncing from the pen and the rotation in AAA. But I like where they're at in B.
the Giants. I mean, you've got Webb right in the middle of his prime, and he's shown that he can hit 200 innings every year. Uh,
I mean, Webb is just he's the only guy that we've seen be reliable above average. I mean, Birdsong and Harrison and Hicks, and there's a lot of guys that I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm kind of like you've got Mason Black and some prospect guys, but outside of Webb, it's just you're kind of relying on a breakout or something that we haven't seen, and so it's tough for me to even put them in that B category. I think I'd probably sit them near where the Guardians are at, where it's like, okay, the Giants have Webb, Guardians have Bybee, and even the Guardians have more coming
I know.
back. Like,
I I
but they
I
have Robbie Ray,
they do
and
have
they
Robbie Ray.
have
I'm gonna
I
go
don't know. I
C,
just always have faith in the Giants guys
and
to figure
also
it out. So.
the money that they have. Um,
I mean, they're going to be one of the big risers on this list. It's like when we're picking out these, I think all the teams in D tier have a kind of trend on them where it's these competitive teams that maybe are losing some guys to free agency or haven't been as good in the past, and they're looking to spend some money and be good, so they could be the big risers. But I like the Giants a little bit ahead of teams that might have some more question marks, like the Mets, Red Sox, and Orioles.
all right, enough said.
I
I mean,
best
when
rotation.
when Brian Wu is your five, I
That is, I just we can talk about it, but I mean, you're talking Gilbert, Miller, Kirby, like
Castillo.
Wu, Castillo, and it's like I feel like I always forget about Castillo because he's the only guy that wasn't homegrown. But it's like they're unbelievable, and Hancock has shown that he can hold his own at the major league level. You've got Logan Evans, who's a top 100 Baseball America prospect in the upper levels of the minors, like ready to come up.
And
They've got great development.
yeah,
It's
I
just you
mean
can't
the
say.
development there is kind of what I feel like I think about most with the Mariners because you look at Brian Wu, who 2 years ago wasn't in their top 30 prospects, right?
I
For their
mean,
team.
he came out of nowhere. Bryce Miller came out of nowhere. Like these guys were kind of. It's just
They just
that
have
I
they
I They can't. I mean, like I keep bringing up Logan Evans because he's their latest example. But I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a 3-year starter at Pitt at 23, who threw low 90s kind of mix 'em up stuff to the tune of a high sevens ERA, and then immediately in his first year of pro ball, he's throwing 100 with 5 different pitches, mixing it up, and has a low threes in Double A. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And I
do
mean,
it.
I think that the Mariners every time they bolster their system, they go out and get these guys who fit their mold. Who was the guy that they took this year in the draft? Who's like
Uh,
there?
you make me pronounce it Gerangelo Chinte or Sainja or
Yeah,
however. I have heard it a million. It's Sainja Chinte or I don't
but he's
something
like that
something
exact
switch
same
pitcher.
prototypical like who they look for. And I mean, even though now it's like, oh, is he going to be good? He's a prospect. You have no idea. It's the Mariners.
Well, I mean, you immediately see in like, and we're dynasty guys, so I'll talk about it in like rankings terms. But I mean, in first year player drafts, Ryan Sloan and yeah, Durangelo Chinte, who were their 2 picks this year, are immediately flying up boards ahead of other pitchers just because people are like, okay, it's the Mariners. They took these pitchers, they paid them a lot of money. They know what they're doing. There must be something we're missing. Let's put faith in that to the level of the Dodgers and the Yankees and these other organizations that are so prolific at developing prospects.
Yeah. The
Or
Cardinals.
denial.
I mean, they just what they let go of Lynn and who was the other one?
Yeah, it's still an old
Still,
folks' home. I mean, we're talking about Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis, God, who else is it? Palante, Steven Matz. I guess maybe give Libertor a chance. I just when they say they're going to cut payroll and this is their rotation, I have more faith in them calling up Quinn Matthews and Tink Hence and them being good, or maybe a Michael McGreevy. I think you're going to see the Cardinals take a step back from competing this year and really focus on developing some of these pitchers at the major league level.
yeah. And I think I'm gonna go D here just because of
Yeah.
Quinn Matthews, Tink Hence. Um,
And I do until they trade Sonny Gray, you do have to count on him. So it's one of those things where it's like it's a bit like the crochet thing where it's like, yeah, we don't expect him to be there, but he is for now. So you kind of got to count on it.
yeah.
Um, Rays.
McClanahan.
I mean, it's so tough. They have so many guys. I just have so many questions. It's like, okay, you've got Boz, who just looks he didn't look like himself this year, and obviously he's coming off the TJ, so it's like warm him up and maybe he will. His numbers at the end didn't look bad, but his kind of peripheral statistics weren't Boz stuff. But I mean, Boz, Bradley, Pepio, McClanahan coming back, Rasmussen, I mean, I could keep going. Springs, like it seems like they have that raised pipeline development that they always do, and it's not going to stop. And I mean, they picked up Lesko, and I'm sure he's going to be great. Now it's one of those things like the Mariners where it's like, okay, they got him. I'm sure he's going to be great. They traded for Brody Hopkins in that Arozarena deal. He'll be up in a few years. Yoniel Corrette, they keep saving him on the 40-man roster, even though he's in high A. Like, this guy's going to come out and be a monster at some point. I just have faith because it's the Rays.
Yeah, and I think I feel pretty comfortable putting them in the C tier
Honestly,
because
I would put them in B.
you'd go B. I mean, I do love Todd
But
Bradley,
it is, it's
but I think
kind
that
of having faith that McClanahan's going to come back and be a guy. I just think that their depth is much. They don't have that star power. They don't have the Scooble right now, the schemes without McClanahan. But their depth of like 2 or 3 starters is just so solid. I mean, Bradley could be a 2. Boz could be. It's that Red Sox problem, but ratcheted up. I feel like it's like they're all in that other echelon of like, ooh, they could be a 2. Like
yeah,
they're Pepio. Like I mean, they traded Claz now for Pepio. Like he could be a guy. Like
definitely.
Rangers.
Rangers, I mean, love Kumar Rock. Love I mean, Jack Leiter, tough year for him, but he's still
Yeah,
not.
I was gonna say love Jack Leiter. I do, and I think he'll be a major league guy. I don't know when. Like it's one of those things where I've been waiting for him to put it together since he was drafted, and he looked good in the minors this year and couldn't translate it to the bigs. But with who's on their roster right now, I mean, you're talking DeGrom, Gray, Molly, Bradford, Rocker. There's guys with big league success here. Dane Dunning,
Mhm.
Roansy Contreras they picked up even where maybe in a new organization like they can retool him. He was a big prospect for the Pirates a few years ago, and he went to the Angels this year and just they tinkered with him in the wrong way as the Angels often do, and he kind of fell apart. But I like them in that C category probably just because you've got some guys that we can rely on, but injuries and we haven't seen them do it in the past. I think you're losing Evaldi and
Yeah, and
Heaney, right? So
I think
it's
they're also losing Gray.
are they losing Gray? I had him written in.
Oh, is he? Okay, well then they probably aren't. I feel
Or
like I saw somewhere.
maybe I mean he might be a trade candidate. I don't know. It's like you said, like they have a lot of guys who are kind of middling, so I could see them moving on from someone. No, they've got Gray for another year, but yeah,
Okay.
13 million, 33. So you never know. The Rangers are a weird situation with that TV deal where they're competitive, and I will look for them to upgrade, but at the same time, they probably need to scale back payroll a little bit with how much they're giving to just their two middle infielders.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Jays.
I mean, down year from Gossman, but up year
Down year
from
from Gosman, yeah.
Barrios had a great year. Um,
Barrios, I think, what were Bassett's ending numbers? I feel like it was kind of disappointing.
yeah, no, I think Bassett is kind of. I mean, he's what 36 going into next year.
Yeah, Bassett at a 4.16 at 171. I want to have faith in a guy who finished top 10 in Cy Young 3 out of the last 4 years, but I don't know. Like he didn't look like himself this year, and at late 30s, and a guy that was never really ripping it with his fastball. I don't know how that's gonna look.
Yeah, um, yeah, and I just don't know. Out of this year, it's like I have faith in Barrios, and then past that, it's like okay, Gossman, does he come
And it's
back?
like I just
And
Bowden
then
Francis is the biggest enigma to me of like I'm gonna pull up his numbers over this stretch because it is just like it's nothing like you've ever seen before. Um let's see. From it was the end of the season once he started starting pitching from August 12th to September 24th, he made 8 starts to the tune of a 1.33 ERA over 54 innings. Like 119
well, and
or
didn't he have like
116 batting average against,
didn't he have like
119
two
BABIP,
no
but
hitters or something going into like the seventh at least?
I mean, it was unreal, and I think you're going to see some regression. But he's likely a guy you'll see in the rotation. Same with Yariel. I don't know what his ending numbers were. He had some up and down moments in and out of the pen. Oh no, he did not come in and out of the pen. I'm lying. Minor leagues, but
Yeah,
4.47, almost striking out a batter per nine. Walks are a little high, 4 per 9, but um, maybe C. I just I don't know. Gosman could bounce back. Bassett, Barrios. I do like them. But are you willing to put it up in that? No,
I
I,
th-
I, I think
I I
you
think
want.
I
Oh,
would.
you want to go D?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
think about them compared to the Orioles. Like, are there less questions for the Blue Jays?
Okay. I mean, the Orioles. You're talking Eflin, Kremer,
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Yeah, I think maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But then when you talk about the Rangers,
Yeah,
maybe move the Rangers down. Then I think we move the Rangers down. I think we should still move the Braves down because I don't think they should be in the same conversation as those teams. But I think they're more with, yeah. I think that there's a big three right now that is just so until the Yankees sign somebody else, or maybe if the Braves do sign somebody else, or Strider shows that he's back, they can be ratcheted up to that upper echelon. But right now, those guys where they have multiple aces are on another level.
Well, we can do the Nationals and then we can talk about some rearrangements.
Oh,
But
okay, sorry, getting ahead of
yeah.
myself.
Well, the Nationals. Love Mackenzie Gore. Um, but
Yeah,
you
I mean, you're talking about a team that they have a lot of mid rotation guys. I think I really like DJ Hurst. His stuff is a lot better than I think his numbers showed this year, and his numbers weren't even bad. Like he had a low fours, and I think his xERA and his FIP were low threes while striking out well over a batter per nine. I mean, left side 23-year-old, that's all you can ask for. But I don't know. You have guys like Jake Irvin and Mitchell Parker that just scream. It's like, okay, they have breaking balls and extension, and they don't throw very hard, and they're in the late 20s, and they're gonna be a five. And it's like, but you can only have so many. And if you have three fives, it's like, okay, like I think if you want this Washington team to be competitive, you need Mackenzie Gore to look really good. I think DJ Hers is going to need to step up, and you need those fives to pitch more like we saw them pitch this year, like fours or threes. Maybe a guy, like I said, Cade Cavalli, I have no idea what to expect, but maybe
yeah,
he's a guy.
but then and then when I mean, I think there is something for those later guys. I mean, Irvin. I feel like I remember this fun fact that you told me at some point in like late June, where he was like top five in WHIP in the league or something like that.
I mean, it's all those guys who pitch to contact, and they can go through points like Bowden Francis, where they have a 119 BABIP over 2 months and just look unhittable because they're just everyone's hitting it on the ground. But and then yeah, you get Josiah Gray back at the end. I mean, maybe at the end of the season. I don't know. All Star break. He only made two starts this year before he went under the knife. I know they said he hits his 24-week throwing in January, I think, in December or January. So hopefully they get him back by midseason. But I think without signing a big starter, it's tough to put them above D for me.
Yeah, but I do like them losing the Corbin contract. Finally having
Oh
that
my
off their
God.
back.
It's well, I mean, at least you knew he was going to be healthy every 5 days. I don't know if that's better or worse than having somebody else just pitch, but he found a way to lead the league in ERA year after year after year.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
and
Any last adjustments?
okay, I feel like any adjustments are probably going to come from these
Mm-hmm.
three right here. I mean, I
I
feel
agree.
very comfortable with the top two and the bottom one, you know. But I think it's like, okay, um, are the twin? I mean, I don't. I feel like I'm more comfortable with the Twins than I am with, say, like the Guardians, you know. But I don't know if that's enough to put them up a tier.
I just don't know. Like I'm more comfortable. Like obviously, I think I like the Twins more than the Guardians. But I mean, with Bieber coming back and with like Gavin coming back, I think C is kind of this weird category for me where it's I think this team is better than they performed. You know, like I think the Diamondbacks are gonna be better with these same guys. Same thing with the Guardians. Same thing, and the opposite with the Brewers. I think they were better, and they're gonna be performing down here now. And with the Brewers too, you talk about maybe Mizurowski coming in and being
Oh yeah.
a bit of a swing man, and I mean, they have great development too. You're always seeing guys. Carlos F. Rodriguez came up and kind of looked okay. You've got Gasser, who at some point in the season hopefully will come up. Logan Henderson. So I've got faith that they can kind of pull guys out like they did last year. Oh my God, it was Aaron Savali. I was going insane with who their guy was last year. The Brewer.
Yes.
Aaron Savali.
Well, they
Thank
got
you.
him. They got him in
Call
like
back to like an hour ago.
they got him from like in like July from the Rays.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and he
I don't know.
wasn't that
I'm good with
great.
this, but if there's any changes you want to propose, I'm all ears.
I'm pretty. I'm comfortable with this here.
Okay, sweet. So in the next few days, yeah, we'll do the lineups and the bullpens. So looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to that, and then
Yeah.
we'll re-rank once they've made some moves.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Be on the alert for that.
See you next time.